Hi, I'm Ruben Saltzman with Structure Tech Home Inspections, and today I'm going to share a timeline that I've put together showing age-related issues that come up during home inspections. So I got this nice chart that I put together. Correction, a smarter person on my team put it together. Brian put this chart together for me, and I just kind of called it my own. But thanks for your help with this, Brian. We put this chart together showing what we look for as home inspectors based on the age of home. Now, I started creating a video where I was explaining every issue, and I was about 10 minutes into the video and I had only gotten through the first 3 topics, and I realized this is going to be an hour-long video. Nobody's going to care to watch it. I got to tighten this up. If you want specifics on any of these issues, head on over to our website, and I've surely blogged or created a video explaining what the meaning behind these issues is. For this video, all I'm going to do is cover the age of home where we expect to find them and explain why I have this age of home listed. So to start, let's take a look at the chart. Let me move over here a little so we can put it up on the screen. We'll start with 9x9 floor tiles. Now, these are known to contain asbestos, and again, I'm not going to get into the why behind all of this, but you could expect to find those in homes built before the 1980s. The next would be aluminum branch circuit wiring, and we expect to find this in homes, the really bad stuff, in homes between 1965 and 1972. Now, this could be a home built before that age, and it got rewired during that period with aluminum branch circuit wiring. But for the most part, I'd say mid-60s to mid-70s, the really bad stuff stopped being produced around 1972. There's other stuff that wasn't quite so bad after that, but a lot of electricians don't know the difference, and they call it all out as bad stuff. So when we come across aluminum branch circuit wiring, we say get an electrician out to check it out and tell you it's safe or to fix it. Next would be asbestos. I'd say pretty much any home built before about 2000 may contain asbestos somewhere. And there's thousands of building materials that contain asbestos. From a home inspection perspective, we're not going to try to identify those thousands of materials. Just know if you're buying a home built before that time, you may have it. Asbestos, to the best of my knowledge, still is allowable today. Nobody's putting it in homes, but it was never actually made illegal. Next is attic bypasses. This is a passageway for warm, moist air to get into the attic space. We expect to find those for sure on homes built before about 1993. And that's simply because before then, there was no understanding of what an attic bypass even was. Now, after that time, at least there was an attempt made to fix these. We still find them on all kinds of houses built after 93. But before that time, it was a guarantee that we would find them. Next, we have buried fuel oil tanks. And this is kind of dependent upon where the home is. Here in the Twin Cities, if a home was built before the 1930s, it was surely heated with coal. And then right around 1930 or so, it became really popular to switch over from coal to fuel oil. So if a home was in existence at that time, it was it's pretty much a sure thing that you had a fuel oil tank at that home at some point. And going newer and newer with homes, if you're in a newer suburb and you didn't have natural gas in that area when the home was built, you might have a fuel oil tank. And I'd say the newest home that we've had would be somewhere in the mid-80s. So if a home was built mid-80s and before then, you may have a fuel oil tank. We've never found them in homes newer than the mid-80s. Next would be Federal Pacific Electric Stab-Lok panels, or FPE panels. I searched the last 100 FPE panels that my company has found, and 80% of those homes were built in the 70s and early 80s. That's the most prevalent time to find these, is 70s and early 80s. However, we found them in homes dating all the way back to 1925, and So there's a big range in age, but most of them is going to be 70s and 80s. Galvanized drain lines, you can expect to find those in homes built before about 1960 or so. Galvanized steel water pipes, same thing. The problem with both of those is that they corrode on the inside, the diameter gets smaller and smaller, and water can't pass through them. That's why it matters if you have these things. All right, I said I wasn't going to explain the why, but I can't help myself. Next is knob and tube wiring. Now, up until a couple of weeks ago, I would have told you that I've never found knob and tube wiring in a home built after about 1940 here in the Twin Cities. However, one of the inspectors in our company just recently found knob and tube wiring in a house built in 1959. I have no idea how. Didn't ring true for me when he told me about this, so I had to look up the photos for myself. And yeah, it was straight up knob and tube wiring in the walls, in the attic, and the age of the home was correct. I can't explain it. So I'll tell you, if a home was built before 1960, it may contain it. Realistically, you could expect to find it in homes built before the 40s. I think this one home was just kind of an outlier. That was a strange deal. Next one would be a galvanized steel or lead water supply pipe. Not the same as distribution piping found throughout the inside of the house, but it's actually the main water line coming into the home. And those are problematic for various reasons. We find those in homes built before approximately 1932, depending on the city. In Minneapolis, we'll find it in homes built before 32. In St. Paul, we'll find it in homes built before 1926. Outside of those suburbs, I can't really tell you. We don't have enough data, and there's not enough old housing stock to really even have those types of supply lines. Not to say it doesn't exist, but we don't have enough data on the other cities. Next, we've got problematic stucco and stone veneer siding. I'd say stone and stucco on homes built before about 1988 or so should be fine. You're good, you got nothing to worry about. After that, I'd call it a problematic material. It's not to say you shouldn't buy a home built during that time, but it needs special attention. We're concerned about stucco installed after that. Next is radon. Radon you can have in any age of home. There is no cutoff where you're not going to find radon. Any age of home, you ought to test for it. The same thing applies to sewer inspections. There is no age of home that is immune to sewer problems. The potential for sewer problems increases with age, but any house can have it. We've got a good compilation video that we put on YouTube several years ago showing major failure on a whole bunch of sewer lines. All of them were less than 10 years old. So don't assume that because it's a new house, you don't have sewer issues. Every home should get a sewer inspection. Next is stucco-covered chimneys. These are chimneys that are covered with stucco. They have limestone brick, and they were built in the 20s and 30s. That's the age of stucco-covered chimney to look out for. These things have some major expensive problems with them. So we're very on the lookout for those when we're inspecting this age of house. Another is Transite ductwork. Now, Transite ductwork is not inherently unsafe. It's a material that contains asbestos. Okay, I'm not going to get into the details here. We could expect to find that stuff in homes built from about 1960 to about 1980. That's where we may find Transite. Now, as far as Transite gas vents, those things are, man, they're problematic. They collapse and they block the flue. We found those in homes from 1949 to about 1954. It's a pretty narrow age of home where we find those things. Next would be ungrounded three-prong outlets. I'd say you could find those in any age of home, but it's most prevalent in homes built before 1962. Back in 62, that's when the electrical code first started requiring grounded receptacles, grounded outlets for everything. You needed the third prong on everything in a home at that age. And before then, it wasn't required everywhere. So it's much more prevalent to find ungrounded three-prong outlets in homes built before 1962. And that brings us to our last one, and it's vermiculite insulation. We find this in homes built from, I'd say, 1920 all the way up through about 1980 or so. And vermiculite insulation contains asbestos. It's one of the most harmful forms of asbestos. It's kind of a big deal if you have vermiculite insulation in your attic. And you always just want to assume that it contains asbestos. So check out our blog for more information about that. Check out our blog for more information about any of these topics. And I hope this chart was helpful. Go ahead and leave your comments on the video. Let me know what I got wrong. Thanks. Take care.